All right, here we go. What's up, boys? Welcome to the channel. It's good to see everybody. Got a bunch of comments to go through, guys. I super apologize that I'm like 5 minutes late to the stream. So definitely never usually punctual when it comes to this stuff, but had to go home and get my little cheat sheet. You know, I was sitting there eating dinner with my girlfriend, and you know, I like to be a little prepared for a good stream, especially one that's got a little whiteboard involved with it. So, you know, let me make sure we're good. What's up, Broken Tool? What's up, Hamlin Motorsports? OG Superfly, David Willis. It's good to see everybody. Adventure Super Day. Oh, we got a new member. Big Fox 302, welcome to the channel. You became an unsung hero fan. That's top tier, man. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you a lot for joining the membership. So, what's up, Fat Boy Fox? Paul the Fox, how we doing? It's actually kind of warm in here. Dang. So today we got a live stream for. We got a live stream for. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up on the way in. You guys see the thumbnail. What kind of sparked me into this? There's usually a reason why every time I do a live stream, like an informational live stream, like I can do a, you know, just a chill live stream for the most part, but I really like to do informational live streams, and you guys all know that. And I got to thinking today, what's something that I could come up with, and you know, considering the situation in the last couple of weeks with my white car and the situation I've been having to deal with my steering and just like, you know, you guys seen my, you know, possibly my blue convoluted tubing on my wiring harness that was from like 1999. And yeah, I mean, it's you never, you know, you're never immune to doing things twice. So, you know, I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what, it would be good to talk about things that you overlook. And there's a reason for it. I know that, you know, we have these things in mind for our Fox bodies, that we have this like vision, right? You get a Fox body, you get a Fox body project, and you have like this vision. You're like, you know, bro, I want this car to do this. I want it to do that. I want to do this. And that's the rabbit hole. We all know the rabbit hole. I've already showed you where it was at. Lots of us fall in and out of it all the time. But yeah, I just thought that I was going to make a live stream today of just some of the things that I've overlooked and relate it to not just modified Mustangs, but, you know, we could talk about, you know, project Mustangs, and we could talk about, you know, cars that you pick up. You know, the deals are still out there. Honestly, I think the deals are starting to come down. You're starting to see a lot more Fox bodies in the affordable range for the most part. And, you know, that's not part of this live stream, but, you know, we could talk about it. But they're getting to the point to where I think they're starting to, you know, at least the project ones are, you know, the rollers and the parts cars and you know, in my line of business, they got to the point to where they were just climbing at such a rapid rate. But yeah, when you're getting a project, so this relates to everybody. You know, or you have a car that you have built, or even have a modified car. There's just things that you can overlook. And like I say, you know, I'm trying to help out more of the, you know, if you're gonna have a modified car or have a car that you're working on, you probably have a pretty good idea of this stuff that we're going to talk about already. So you probably already changed it. But in the case of like my white Mustang, you know, you think that all the things are done in my white Mustang, you're seriously wrong, because I'm always finding something that wasn't right and should have been there to begin with, right? So that's what we're going to talk about. Anyways, how we doing, Sally the Fox? What's up, Matt? For Matt 77. It's good to see you, my man. Yeah. So we got about 44 in stream. We're gonna go ahead and get started. So the theme of the stream is, you know, the top 10. Now there's more than 10. You guys see my card. There's more than 10. We're just gonna keep talking. You guys could go ahead and chime in on, you know, what you know, something that I might have missed. Now, I don't want to talk about like restoration stuff too much, but there are some things that I've talked about that we're going to talk about today in the past live streams, and we only live stream once a week, so it's okay to kind of hit back on it for the new members that have joined. But this is like when I say you overlook, like some of the stuff that you overlook on your Foxbody, I think some of the things that come in mind would, first of all, let's set the precedence. So you got a Foxbody, and who can tell me what the first like 3 things is to a Foxbody that's the most important? Tell me in chat. What's like the most important things that live chat, or excuse me, that Foxbodies that's important to everybody. Like when you get a Mustang, what needs to happen? What's the first thing you guys? I mean, is it performance? Is it looks? Is it stance? What is it? Bushings, and more bushings. That's actually where I actually got this live stream from, Big Fox. Somebody had talked about it several weeks ago. What's the first thing you guys think of when you look at a Mustang? What's like the first thing? No, I mean, I'm not talking about mods. I mean, okay. Let me do it. Here we go. Is it solid or not? Yeah, it's rusty. So for me, the first big 3 would be probably paint, right? So we spend and we think about paint the most. Like we got to like the way the car looks, right? Paint. The way it looks, how clean is it, rust-wise, right? Paint, body. We'll put that in body, right? So we spend a lot of attention on paint and body. That's where we want to go with this, right? It's like, it includes moldings, like Pete just said. It includes moldings, the door moldings, the plastic moldings, headlights. Somebody said headlights. So that's all under paint and body. Like when you see a Mustang, you got to like the Mustang before you spend money on the Mustang. It's just the way we work, right? So that's like a big one, right? Number 1 is paint and body. So that's always a big deal for the Foxbody crowd. So number 2, what would number 2 be? Paint and body doesn't what would number 2 be? Does it run as a good one? Does it have a title? Now we're not going to get into the interior because I've seen a lot of really pretty cars missing like everything inside. But we're talking, and I'm going somewhere with this, so I'm not just kind of randomly speaking here. So number 2, I just went all day removing 34-year-old pinstripes. Oh, don't even get me started. Number 2 would be like wheels, right? I guess that could go with paint and body, but the first thing I have to do when I buy a Foxbody Mustang, at least when I was first buying or first with the Foxbody Mustang, like first started collecting them or whatever, first got interested in them, like the first thing I had to do was I went out and bought wheels. Like I was a Cobra R guy, so like Cobra R wheels was a must, period. I had to like the way the car looked to actually spend time working on it to enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? And paint and body was very important too, like dings and nicks, and is it clean? Is it shiny? I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I don't think I've ever owned, and you're hearing it right now. Jeffrey, stay with me right there. There you go. You're hearing it right now. I don't think I've ever owned a Foxbody that had immaculate paint. My Celine did, my convertible. I got rid of that though. Like it had like 700 miles on it. I sold that for like $24,000 8 years ago. It's probably worth triple that now. I mean, it had 700 miles on it. I had all the paperwork and everything. But number 2 would be wheels, right? When we get caught up in this shit, number 2 would be wheels. Number 3, somebody had already said it. Jeffrey Williams, the sound of it, right? So we're talking exhaust, cam, etc. And now I know you guys watch Brutal, so he does a lot of really good camshaft stuff, different sounds of them. He has, Donnie B. Anderson Ford Motorsports, which you guys all know Donnie B. For the most part, he's into the Anderson camshafts. The E cams, the B cams, I mean, he does really well with the sounds of the Foxbody. Bruno does. And that's exactly it. Those are your big three. I'm going to be honest with you. When you're looking at spending money and time on a Foxbody. What's up, Foxcast Media? It's good to see you, buddy. Right. Valid looks make you want to work on it. Correct. What's up, Foxcast? Yep. So now that I've established the big three: paint, wheels, exhaust, and sound. Right. I mean, it could be a Coyote motor. It could be it could be a Terminator motor like Kenny Sean at Blue Oval has. I mean, that car sounds completely different than any other Foxbody because it has a Terminator motor. It sounds amazing. It could be it could be a 351. It could be a 408. It can be any of those things with different mufflers, cheap mufflers, expensive mufflers, whatever. Anyways, we often overlook so much of the stuff on our Foxbodies that it's almost dangerous. So we're going to go through the top 10 things. I got more than 10, so we're going to continue talking about them. But the reason why I wanted to do this is because I had a recent event with my white car that almost put that thing into a wall several times in a row. And I couldn't figure out why it was doing that. So, you know what? We're going to add stance to the wheels too. Stance and wheels. I don't know why I got off topic there, but so we ended up, I do have a whiteboard, guys, by the way, but I forgot it too at the house, and I'm not running back there and getting it right now. So we're going to stick it on the slick over here. Anyways, we had an incident with the white car several times. I couldn't figure it out. And you guys know that got a bump steer issue. So I started messing with the bump steer issue, and it just was a downward spiral. So I'm thinking to myself, how are you spending all this money on this car? And how are you going fast? I'm saying this to myself. How are you going fast or trying to go fast, depending on who you talk to? But I'm trying. And you're not paying attention to the simple stuff. And that's kind of where we're at in this live stream. I kind of want to share my experience. And it's, all my live streams have something to do with, being an hour and a half long, because it's not something that I would want to put in a 10-minute video, at least not right now. So I want to share my experience because I'm kind of leading up to it. But the very first thing that we're going to talk about that's very easy to overlook is your bump steer. We have already talked about, come on, Caleb. Your bump steer and your tie rod ends. We have one of the original tie rod ends that came off. And it was, yeah, dude, 150 miles an hour, bro. Look at that. This is what came off. I'm not paying attention to it. This is overlooked. This is dumb. And of course, look at that. Wondered why I was going into about to go into a wall. I was lucky. You know what I mean? We hammer on these cars and we have all this fun with these cars and burnouts and racing at the track or whatever. And it just got to the point to where I'm like, this would be good for a stream. So if you got a Foxbody that highly modified, not modified, my white car is SN95 converted. So a bump steer was in order. And I took the time to change the bellows too, which is like the rubbers or whatever. Those things are all tore up. So these are things that we overlook because we spend so much time on paint, hem by, because I'm going to keep coming back to it because we spend so much effort and time on these three. You know what I'm saying? Like before we even get into the engine mods, because then you start talking about gears and engine mods. We live in a great and an amazing genre. Like our Foxbodies have, they even have titanium fasteners for our car. It's fascinating to be able to just go ahead and we could buy anything we want. Exhaust, cam. I mean, there's no car that has that many aftermarket parts for it that I've ever heard of. I know there's a lot out there that's saying a lot, but Foxbodies, in my opinion, probably the number one modded car in America. So number one is going to be bump steer. And what I mean by bump steer, guys, is if your tie rod isn't level with your control arm, okay, you need to buy the bump steer kit. It brings and levels your tie rod out. your rack from your immediate center, they call it, in the middle where underneath. All right, so we back. High five. All right, I'm giving it a second. Give it a second. So I'm gonna keep going. It should be unfrozen about now. So bump steer tie rod was probably my number one. It was just a bad scenario. So if it's fuzzy, guys, it's gonna do that once in a while, but it takes a little second to focus back. But I can always unplug it. Whatever. I've never had an actual stream cut off, but I've had it do that. Whatever. Got to pay my internet bill. So tie rod end. I just felt I should share that with you guys because it's very important. And you guys that went to Ford Takeover seen me get in and out of it a couple times, and we got a little squirrely there. So, right next to the tie rod end, and see the tie rod end you don't even pay attention to, right? You look at it, you say to yourself, in most case scenarios, you would look at that and say, man, that's good, right? That's good. We're good to go. But in all actuality, this thing's clicking all over the place. It probably needed a grease like 3 years ago. So that doesn't mean, that means that this tie rod is shot. So, we don't look at those things. We don't care. I've actually caught one of my old buddies' tie rods like literally falling off the car. Like he didn't even have the castle nut like freaking tight. And I'm just like, dude, you're going to get hurt if you don't, check out your front suspension. So along the same lines with the rack and the tie rod end is your bushings. We talked about bushings before. Your rack will actually move when you steer if you don't actually change the bushings that the rack is on. Those big long bolts that come through your K-member. And this goes for stock and or both, manual or any other aftermarket. So I wanted to add that the bushings, I had somebody say in my members chat, and I think it was probably one of the greatest things and I was going to actually do that live stream today about it. But if you had $1,000, what would you do to your Foxbody? And you could only spend $1,000. So we'll save that for another live stream. That'll probably be what we do next week. But, bushings are probably one of the most overlooked things on the Foxbody, period. Tie rod ends, because you think they're, unless they're like got a torn boot or falling off, you don't pay attention. And then, of course, the ball joint. So ball joint would be my next one. Check my oil. Yeah. Wait, is it fuzzy right now? It's all right. Ball joint. So I need to set this up. So ball joint would be number 2. Because ball joint actually is really bad, to be honest with you. It's just a bad scenario all the way around. Because it's just like you don't really know if it's bad unless you actually take the wheel off. And, if you're as motivated as I am about taking wheels off, bad enough I change these big ass slicks around all the time. Then, you get the point. So put my board up, bro. Use these slicks for something. Anyway. Boom. What's up? Yeah. So ball joint would probably be my next one. Number 2. I think that's very, very overlooked. Now, this applies to, listen, this applies to your control arm, your aftermarket control arms as well. because those go bad like faster. Like I got the lower tubulars on both my black and my white car, and I've had ball joint go out on both sides. Just like they came with the Q81. Doesn't make any sense. Ford Matt, me overlooking suspension is the main reason I didn't have my 90 GT at FTO. See, I got tied up getting it running and then looked decent. Then while I was driving all over the road, man, I feel that, bro. That's exactly. I'm driving all over the track. Adventures with Super Dave. Front control arm bushings, ball joints, solid steering shaft. Yeah, so we're going to talk about rag joint because I did make a video about the rag joint. Like, I wasn't sold on the rag joint, like, ever. Like, I always said to myself, well, it steers, it's fine. No. You guys, you guys that follow the channel, you guys seen me, like, move that rag joint around. Like, I never knew that those little U-joints would actually go bad like they did. There was no greasable fitting. I figured, nothing lasts forever. And we're talking about 30-plus-year-old cars. I mean, those parts have seen their days. But rag joint and I think rag joints almost was one of the culprits on top of the bump steer. I just had a whole gang of shit going wrong with my white car. You know what I mean? So rag joint needs to be checked. And that's if you guys don't know what a rag joint is, a steering shaft rag joint factory, that's kind of I think this is the one that I had on the white car. Like these things are like not very good. Like you can see that it was moving up here, but this is a rag joint. And then this is the little piece here that gets torn up. And these bolts get all messed up, especially when they get rusty. This thing here gets replaced by, I got a Flaming River rack on my white car and well, I don't have it on my black car, but got a Flaming River rack on my white car. Didn't have bump steer, had normal tie rod ends, and then I didn't even have the knuckle. So that don't make any sense, does it? I just overlook stuff because I think it's, whatever. I think it's like, oh, I don't need that. Okay. Anyways, front control arm bushing. Yeah, so we said that part. Moving on. Rag joint, and these are some things like you building a Foxbody or get a Foxbody project. These are some things that you always, say in your back of your mind, well, I'll look at that when there's a problem, right? It's so overlooked. Is it possible to re-drill a slug hub? A 4-lug, I'm not sure. Maxim makes a beefy rag joint. So there are some, some viable options for your rag joint issue. Obviously, guys, checking your ball joint, your tie rod ends, those are very, very important. Rag joint, those are things that can physically steer your car on and off the road dangerously. Take it from me. So we're going to actually move on to something not in the front suspension. Something that's always overlooked that causes so much damn problems, it's not even funny. Going to the back of the car, what's often overlooked and probably even less changed is the fuel filter. Like, I don't know how many Foxbodies, like if your fuel filter is plugged up, even half plugged up, it puts a very large strain on your pump. And even if you have it wired, it doesn't matter. It's kind of like trying to, spit through a straw or something. I mean, it's very restrictive. So it would put a strain on trying to feed your motor, which would then cause a misfire sort of, because you don't have the proper fuel pressure. It's a bad scenario all the way around. And it's so easy to fix and so easy to change, but we often overlook it. And I never really was a believer in the fuel filter stuff until I started getting into the modified shit with my Magna Fuels, my 750s that I run E85 on. I'm going to tell you what, I change those filters in those cars every year on the money. Now they say you can clean them out, whatever. I just change them because Magna Fuel rebuilds our pumps. And this is on the modified side. $75, they'll rebuild the pump, to change the brushes or whatever for an extra $50 or something like that. anyways, they told me that there was so much garbage in my pumps just from debris that got past my 50 micron or 200 micron. I don't even remember which one I had pre-filter, but I never really believed in how much stuff gets in those filters. And then we sit there and chase our tail and throw parts at our cars because, like, oh, our fuel pressure's not right. Oh, the pump's going bad, or the fuel pressure regulator don't work. Like, why don't we just change the fuel filter and see how clogged it is? You see what I mean? I physically have taken fuel filters out of some of our Foxbodies that literally you couldn't even, like, you couldn't even push air through it. It was just so bad. So, I think fuel filter is very important because fuel filter can cause all kind of running issues. Fuel filter just all kinds of running issues that would get you chasing your tail, and then you go right into the rabbit hole throwing parts at it. How many of us was throwing parts at our Foxbodies trying to fix it? I still do. Well, not so much anymore, but done it a lot. Yeah, I agree with that. Fuel filter should be changed when you do a tune-up. So yeah, let's go to if your rag joint hasn't been changed or looked at yet on your Foxbody project, probably should take a peek at it. Make sure it's right. Make sure when you take your front tires off, maybe to change brakes or something like that, you should pop your ball joint down. Make sure it doesn't click. Well, not ball joint, but the tie rod end. Check you can tell when your rack bushings are going back because they're like spreading out. They're just squishy. You know what I mean? But the fuel filter definitely is something that should be changed with tune-ups, changed with every couple oil changes. Like, I'm due to change my E85 ones actually next month. So anyways, but yeah, so when you do change your fuel filter, disconnect, because everything's a quick disconnect, at least on factory Foxbodies. Maybe have somebody in the front with a rag or a bucket on the return and the feed line and have somebody blow some air through the lines. You see what I mean? To see if there's anything in there. That's, maybe spray some brake cleaner up in there. I don't know. Probably not a good idea. Anyway, moving on. Who had a good one? Jeffrey had a good one. Engine mounts. I didn't even have that on there. Good one. We overlooked. Stop lying. Stop lying. If you've had a Foxbody and you've owned more than one, everybody's done this. Overlooked engine mounts because they suck to replace. You have to lift the whole motor up. And even then, on some of these polys, you can't even get it in, even if you do have a engine hoist right here. You have to take the motor out to change some stupid mounts. We all done it. I'm guilty of it too. So that's a good one, Jeff. Good one. I actually didn't even have that on there. Engine. Now, we talked about some of this stuff in one of my streams a couple months ago with when they sit too long. So this is kind of crossing over and repeating some of that stuff. So engine mounts are absolute terrible design from the factory. It's a two-piece design. You got the bracket, and then you got this big chunk of rubber, like legit. It's got one big stud on it, and the rubber has like an outer metal base, and it goes into the K-member, and then he's got these two other little studs on the other side that actually bolt the plate. There's a left and a right plate, and there's a plate that bolts to the motor. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know what they were doing that day when they were designing that, but I mean, you got to be kidding me. It's like when I first took one apart, I was like, what is going on? What is this garbage? So then I would go to Advanced Auto Parts. And this is back in the early days. I would go to Advanced Auto Parts or AutoZone because I've owned a lot of Foxbodies, but eventually I had to change the motor mount because the whole engine was doing this number here. So it was moving inside the engine bay. So, you would go up to the store, but yeah, I need an engine mount for an 89 Ford Mustang. And I'm like, do you need the lower or the upper piece? And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? They ended up selling me convertible mounts, which worked, but it is what it is. Engine mounts are terrible. They tear every one of them. I guarantee every one of them is not only dry rotted at this point, but they're tearing for sure. And they're sneaky tearing. They're tearing underneath and in the middle. That's another good one. Smurf it. Good. Yes. You guys don't know who Smurf it is. That is Sandy if you guys watched my FTO video, so shout out to everybody that went to FTO. I hope you guys enjoyed my montage video. That video wasn't meant to try to get 1 million views. That video was meant to show you the sheer amount of people and events that happened at Ford Takeover. So there's a lot of great footage, a brutal Foxcast, 417, Blue Oval. You know, everybody shot some good footage of that event. It was fire, and you should probably try to go there next year. It's going to be a great time. But brake booster is absolutely another one that we overlook. And these two right here, man, I'm gonna be honest with you, engine mounts and brake boosters, like they're hard to see going bad. Does that make sense? Like if you look down on your factory engine mounts, and this is for GT and coupe people, because convertible has a different mount. It's actually harder on a convertible because they got like this brace in between the mount. So that rubber inside the convertible, those go back quick. And I mean, they really expected the convertible engine to like sit on that little piece of rubber. I don't know. But anyways, brake booster sneaky from underneath. Like it's got the underneath problem with like the leaking from the back side of it. And if you ever see your brake booster like getting like it like fluids and you ever see it like wet on the frame rail or whatever, that you got a problem with your brake booster, because it's either leaking from the front of the master cylinder or from the back. And it's like you're like, oh, my brake booster looks fine. And then you pull it out and look underneath, and it's got all kind of rust or there's a hole there. It's not uncommon. If you got brake issues, change your brake booster. If your brake is squishy, is it squishy or is it when the brake is too hard? I can't remember which one what's the symptom of a bad brake booster. I think when it's squishy, it's the master cylinder-ish proportioning valve. But when the brake pedal is too hard to push, I think that's brake booster, because it's not getting enough vacuum or something like that. So, yeah, we're getting to that. Anyways, moving on. Brake booster, that's a good one, Sandy. It's a good one. We're going to throw Pro Valve in with brake booster just real quick, because I don't want to go on a tangent about Pro Valve, because I've had mine weep all over the front of my black car. I have to get it changed before I lose my brakes at 140. But valve, the Pro Valve, how you know your Pro Valve is going bad? You'll have like a squishy brake or whatever, but you'll see it leaking. Like there's a little rubber, like I don't know, little rubber thing with the little jam nut, and it's supposed to be like a pressure release if there's ever a brake issue or whatever. But that rubber goes bad, and it's like a little weep hole that'll come out, and it'll get wet. Here's the funny thing is you won't even know it's weeping or whatever, but then all of a sudden your driver's side strut tower is rotted out, and it's a combination of brake fluid. Like it's a combination of a bad Pro Valve, it's a combination of a bad master cylinder possibly, and it's a combination of a brake booster. So you want to know why driver's side rots out more than passenger side? And that surprises me, because passenger has the AC side, has the accumulator or whatever, but it's your Pro Valve leaking all over the place. What's up, Mike Straminsky? Can I get a heater core for 100 points, please? Heater core. So heater core probably wouldn't be, in the overlooked. However, I'm going to put it in there anyways. You know why? Because the heater core is probably one of the worst items to change on a Foxbody. Only because I can tell you from experience that if you don't know how to take a dash out, it is miserable. Absolutely miserable. To people that have some advanced mechanic, listen, if you can find somebody, if you got a heater core problem, you can find somebody to put a heater core in, then they do it for a couple $100, pay the man his money and go get it done. But heater core is overlooked only because the job is just terrible to do, and you have to pull the whole heater box out to get to it for the most part. What we do here at the shop, what me and cousin Paul are starting to do, we've been doing for about 6 months, is I'll sell the heater box. Like we do sell quite a few car parts, and like I'll sell the heater box to people because cousin Paul will actually tear it completely apart and clean everything, because there's all kind of rat nests in there. And we just, at this point, we just change the heater core while it's in there, because there's no reason to sell somebody a used heater core or a used box that's going to have a bad heater core in it to begin with anyway. So I would have to say heater. See, I'm getting a lot of these aren't even on my list. So I'm going to go with heater core as well, what Mike said. And it's only overlooked because of the because how terrible the job is. Job, yeah. What's up, Donnie B? Good to see you, my man. Daniel Robinson in the house. How you doing? I appreciate you stopping in, Dan Robinson. That's my Summit Racing Tech. Donnie B is the lead tech at Anderson Ford Motorsport. I appreciate you guys stopping in. John Doe, yeah, man. Removing the pedal assembly is not easy, but what did NJC say? My motor mount broke and punctured my oil filter. Spit all oil out while I was wow. So see, your motor mount broke and then punctured your oil filter. Wow. Wow. Diff fluid. No one ever. Okay, so that's funny. That's exactly where we're at. Actually, we have one below that, or above that. But we're gonna go right in. So diff cover is always overlooked. Like guys, if you see some drippy drip at the bottom of your axle diff cover, like that's a really easy job to fix for the most part. It's when you see, now you got to be careful because I'm going to put diff cover and front seal in the same one, because you have to pay attention to which one it really is. If you have a front seal leak on your Foxbody, modified, stock, it don't matter. You got to pay attention to the front seal, because if there's a line of wetness, or like where fluid looks like fluid has been recently coming from the front of your pinion, where your seal's at by your drive shaft yoke, then you have a seal issue, not a differential cover issue. Which the seal isn't that bad to replace either. It's actually pretty easy. You pull the flange off, pay attention to the torque on the torque nut on the pinion, and you just pop that seal off, clean it nice and good, with some brake cleaner and a screwdriver or whatever, and then you tap the seal back on, put the flange back on, torque it back to spec, and you're done. But we don't look at it as an important mod. Where I'm getting with all this stuff here is this is stuff that just sucks to do. And it doesn't give us any sort of enjoyment as far as, entertainment value or acceleration or performance or whatever. It doesn't really give you any value. I mean, heater core is for heat, brake is for brakes. Nobody likes this. You hear me? But nobody wants to spend any money on it, and that's why we overlook it. And this is exactly why I started with the big three, right? Diff fluid is absolutely the worst. I'm gonna call that the big three. Fire, baby, fire. We always pay attention to paint and body. We pay attention to wheels and stance. We pay attention to how the damn thing sounds. And then we get into the engine mods. Oh, well, how I make it go faster. Look, we're gonna put big four, go faster. Right down the rabbit hole. And that after these three are kind of cool, going faster is just a whole nother argument in itself. Rabbit hole. So diff fluid's absolutely the worst, period. So what did I say? Yeah, diff fluid and front seal. Diff cover. Now, if your front seal's dry by your flange, but you got some drippy drips coming at the bottom, it's your diff cover. Don't buy a gasket. Guys, don't buy a gasket. Get you a good oil pan. Okay, crack that diff open, man. That thing, diff fluid smells terrible. Don't get it on you. If you get it on your clothes, you might as well throw them out. But clean up your mess, whatever. Get the surface of the 8.8 diff cover on your axle clean. All right. Get your diff cover itself clean, aftermarket, modified, stock. It doesn't matter. This all applies. And get you some of that, the right stuff gasket sealer. You put the right stuff gasket sealer on for about 2 minutes. I think that stuff dries in like 5 or so ish till it's like tacky. You see what I mean? Then you put your diff cover back on. It'll probably never leak again. Make sure you got, you go around the bolts a couple times and you torque 10, 20, 30, whatever. I think 30 is the torque for it anyways. So, don't buy a gasket. Don't mash right stuff gasket sealer in between. Don't mash a gasket in between all that. Let the right stuff do its job. Put a nice fair amount on there. Let it get tacky, and then put your cover on. Won't leak again. You know what I'm going to add to this? The next one we're going to talk about, before we talk about the next one, we're going to talk about one that some of y'all are going to be surprised about. Check this out. You guys are going to be like, Neo, you hit it on the head right there. There is one thing on your axle that everybody overlooks. Not even paying attention. It's your axle vacuum. If you got an axle seal problem, you have a vacuum problem. Much like a T5 has a small vacuum at the top of the case. And you guys are probably like, a vacuum? What the hell are you talking about, Neil? Check it out. There is a little vacuum on an 8.8. It's actually on a 4-cylinder too, but the 4-cylinder's brake block goes into that vacuum too. So it's like big and kind of obnoxious because I think the pipe's on the driver's side for the exhaust. If your vacuum is clogged on your axle, you're going to pop seals. And it's just going to be, you're going to pop diff covers. You're going to pop front seals. Your axle has to breathe. So this is an overlooked maintenance item that a lot of people don't even pay attention to. There's this little, like vacuum. It sits at the top of the right axle. It would be on the passenger side. And you could actually physically remove it from the axle if you don't have a rusty axle. You could spray some penetrating oil up in there, and you could actually remove it. Like, it's meant for the cap not to come off, but I guarantee you, 8 out of 10 axles out there have either one that's clogging up or one that's clogged. And if you haven't, I'm talking about kind of stock axles or whatever, but even on my performance ones, I make sure that vacuum is clean and breathes well. Like, I actually physically remove it. You got to be careful though, because if you break it off in there, it's kind of a pita to get it out. But axle vacuum. And that leads me into seals. So axle vacuum plus axle seals. So axle seals, you don't even know leak. Like, axle seals, nobody cares about none of this. Nobody cares about none of this because it doesn't really revolve around looking better or sounding better. So this is what the whole live stream's about. It's about overlooking all this and like how I've done it. I've done it so many times in the past, it's not even funny. So axle vac will cause axle seals to leak and your front seal and your diff cover. Bet you didn't know that. Maybe you did. But if there's too much pressure building up inside of the axle, it's got to go somewhere, right? And it doesn't make any sense, especially if you just put a diff cover on or a front seal on, you just rebuilt the axle. Well, why is it leaking already? Got to check the vacuum. Overleaked. It's kind of a maintenance thing. It's free. Take it off if you can get it off. Take it and clean it real good. Like, the cap won't come off. It's kind of like pinched onto like the actual like fitting itself. So, but you could clean it real good. And the better you can make that axle kind of breathe a little bit, the less worry you can have on that. So axle seals really suck because you got to actually take the actual brake off too. The rear drums, we're talking stock rear drums and C-clip eliminators, it's even worse. Like, you can't really tell, well, C-clip eliminators don't even have them, but I'm at rear disc. It's kind of got to the point to where it's like, it's wet. Like, you pull the drum off and you're like, why is it so wet? And here's the thing is, if you're just leaking a little bit, it's going to get up into the brake pad. You feel me? And it's just going to burn up, or it's just going to, like it's going to ruin your brake pad itself. Like it's going to burn it. And then your rotor is going to start to warp. And then I don't know if you guys ever had a Foxbody up on jack stands where, you know, you put it in gear, whatever, you hear eat. That's the rear pads like warped, and so isn't the rotors. Probably because it had a bad, you know, had a rear axle and or wheel cylinder leak, which is my next one. You know, is wheel cylinder should actually be with number 9, but we're going to put it in itself because you can't see this stuff unless you take it apart. And ain't nobody wants to do this stuff because it takes time, it sucks, and it doesn't really give you any sort of enjoyment like the big 3 do. You know what I mean? Wheel cylinders. Now, wheel cylinders are basically for drum people, aka factory brakes. You know, again, these things will start pushing out and pushing in so many times that the fluid will just whatever, it'll do whatever it wants at that point. And then the cheap ones they make suck. They're already dead in a year anyway. So, War Admiral, man, I appreciate you. It's good to see you in the house, my man. I appreciate the $20 super chat donation for the channel. I appreciate that, man. Got some cool stuff coming up this week. Door seals and sunroof tee. Yep, that's a maintenance thing. So we're going to move on. Here's one that's not even on my Foxbodies. We overlooked this one thinking it doesn't mean, and it, to me, if I'm judging Foxbodies at a show, it's going to be one of the things that I look for, but I don't even really know what it's called, but I'm pretty sure it's a dew strip. Now, I ain't talking about the one on the door, fellas. I'm talking about the one on the hood. Like, I don't think I've ever pulled one off. I've owned many hundreds of Foxbodies, and I've never, I'm not gloating, I'm just telling you, I've never pulled one off of a Foxbody that was good. I'm talking about the little dew strip that runs along the cowl panel. And if you look at your cowl panel, there's little slots right at the top of it. You probably didn't even know. And if you have a cowl panel, if you have a cowl hood and or a stock hood, it don't matter. This is all after whatever, unless you got a pin off. Even then, this little dew strip, this little rubber dew strip is you know, if it was made in 1989, it was dead by 1994. It's just, they just get dry rotted, and they just, from the engine heat and the cold and the weather, basically what it did was it kept water and condensation from, you know, when you washed your car, it didn't get down into your engine bay, you know what I mean, and get down into your door pillars and such. So it's that one that goes across the back of the cowl panel right there. When you lift your hood, there's a little dew strip. We always overlook even having that. Like, and I think some of the resto sites, I think they actually repop that, which is really cool. But I haven't heard anybody say anything about, you know, about stuff like that. Like, that's often overlooked because you look at it and you're like, you know, it doesn't mean, you know, I'm not going to spend any money on that. Who cares if water gets in there? Yeah, I feel the same way. But, you know, in a restoration, in a car show, you know, in the genre of us loving these Foxbodies for the way they look and the way they sound, the way they ride, obviously the big 3, then, you know, it's kind of important because, you know, you don't want, you spend, I mean, War Admiral, for an example, he's here in chat. You spend, you know, hundreds of hours making sure this Foxbody stays meticulously clean. Like, you know, if you don't have the dew strip on the hood, probably going to get some, you know, some debris down in there. Oh, whatever. So I don't even know what that's called. I'm just going to say cowl dew strip. Yes, sir. Oh, how many people we got in here? Oh, we got about 90 people in here. Hell yeah. Listen to me ramble, boys. Appreciate y'all. I replaced mine. I couldn't stand the fact that it looked bad. Yeah, it's just all cracked up. It's just all like dry rotted and falling apart. And if you try to pull it off, it just falls apart in your hand. What's up, everyone? It's good to see you. Good to see you. Fuel pump relay under the seat. So we're going to get into that. So we're going to talk about wheel cylinders. So here's another one that's overlooked, and this actually should be really, really, really important. And actually, my boy Brutal just came out with a video, the best free mod, which I think was a Friday's video or Wednesday. I don't remember which day it was, but I watched it, and he's right. He was cutting springs. Okay, so it's a really good free mod because it's one of the big three. You know, it's wheels and stance. But often overlooked and never appreciated is having to buy struts and shocks. And if I remember correctly, an old wise man told me that if a strut, if you pump like a strut up, because it's a hydraulic cylinder for the most part, and if you push it all the way down and it rises slowly, it's still good. Same thing for the shock, because what it does is it's basically trying to reduce the amount of rebound that your body has. It's like a drag racing thing, you know, the compression and rebound. Your car's constantly moving this way and moving that way. Bushings are moving all over the place, right? Bushings that we don't give a about. And then your car's riding like ass, or it does, you know, you hear this noise or hear that noise. I mean, Foxbodies are allowed to begin with. We're not doing ourselves any favor by riding around on bushings that are cheap and or old. But anyways, struts and shocks. Struts and shocks are always overlooked unless you like drag race or have some purposeful meaning for them. And to be honest with you, a good set of, you know, what was it? Koenig? Remember those? Is it Koenig shocks? Just a good strut and shock in the front can change the way your Foxbody, whether modified or stock, it doesn't really matter. So I think struts and shocks are often overlooked, but that should be going with the stance thing. When you start stancing your car out and fixing which wheel you want or figuring out which wheel you want, then, you know, struts and shocks should definitely go in with your wheels and stance. Turn your, you know, you could flip your quad shock if you want to retain the stock look-ish. You can still fit a 275 underneath of your car easily on a 17 with a quad shock flipped. So we're going to say strut, shock, but that's how you actually, you know, we overlook this stuff, and you know, it's we overlook this stuff and don't even pay attention to it half the time. Coney, is that right? Coney shock? I can't remember it. What was the other one? There was a couple of them. There's some old G ones. Coning, I don't remember. Anyway, moving on. Oh, the donut that goes in the side. What's up, Brad, for rods? KYB was who I was thinking of. KYB was another one. Obviously Lakewood. Coney was a shock. What's up, Neo? Got a question. Tried lowering my throttle body idle screw, and it doesn't idle down past 900. Idles at night. Surging, it won't. Okay, how can I lower the idle more if the bolt isn't? Okay, so you need to do, all right, look, one of Brutal's best videos he ever did, whether on purpose or not, was the base idle reset. You need to go see his video, watch his video. He did a really nice job explaining base idle reset. You need to do a base idle reset for a guy, Mike. Bilstein and Strange. So I run Strange. You start getting into the race shocks and struts. You start getting into the the Strange and the Lakewoods and the Vikings and stuff like that. But I'm talking about like your normal, like for the guys that were running the like factory styles front ends or whatever. Then you want to like the KYBs were back in the day. They were like a gray shock, and there was like Coney, like he was talking about. There was a handful of them. Yes, Bilsteins, if you're, yeah, right. Maximum Motorsports coilover. So we'll see it, Cousin Paul, if that means you're leaving. Check the vac leaks before idle reset. Yep. So here's an often overlooked, we're going to continue moving forward. One that actually I'm going to bring up Brutal again. Often overlooked. AOD guys, adjusting your TV cable. Your TV cable is super important for shifting your AOD. It will change the way it shifts. TV cable. Pay attention to what Brutal did on his channel. That is often overlooked. People think their AODs are dying. People think their AODs are sluggish and they don't care about them or whatever. If your TV cable is out of adjustment, your AOD will shift like it needs fluid. That's often overlooked, and there's a bushing on the throttle body. He just did this video, I think, last week too. So it's funny that I'm talking about some of this stuff, and you know, it's showing up on the live stream. Four Guy Mike, I appreciate the $10 super sticker, man. I appreciate you stopping in. I hope I can help you. But listen, I'm telling you, try to do a base idle reset first before you chase your tail around that throttle body. Because 900 is probably, I don't think the A9L likes to idle below that, or A9P, or any of the computers for that matter, even speed density. I think I like to idle my cars at around 950 to 1,000. I know that's not really the right answer, but that's just the way I've been doing it in tuning for years. TV cable, do not set it too loose. That's correct. Fuel filter, we already talked about that. Hang on a second. Let me try to answer his question one more time. Don't have any surging, but now I have to drive around ACSO 900 without any surging. So you're having an issue with, so you can't get it to go down. I mean, I don't understand. It's got to be something. It should idle. Where try? Have you messed the IAC? You messed with the IAC at all? Shifter cable bushing. Yes. Okay, so let's talk about bushings. Bushings, and more bushings. Bushings. I wrote it like 3 times, like that's important. Bushings, and more bushings. Bruh. Yeah, go check it. Have you cleaned your IAC Ford Mike? Yeah, try the IAC. Bushings, and more bushings. There is an enormous amount of bushings in a Foxbody. It's just ridiculous. You got bushings you got 4 bushings in your control arms. You got, well, 6 if you include the 2 on the axle. So that's 6 bushings right there. In your lower control arms, you got 2 big ones on each side. That's 4. You got 2 in your rack. That's 6. That's 12 bushings I've already named. Give me some more. What are the bushings that are there? Oh, you got the shifter cable bushing. You got the throttle body bushings. We're talking rubber that has probably been past its expiration date for 20 years. You know a bushing's bad when you look at it and it's cracked. I can probably tell you, if you own a Foxbody, a factory Foxbody, or one that hasn't had any control arm changes at all yet, your bushings are shot. Unless you got that thing in a bubble and you drive it once a year to July 4th picnic or whatever, even then they can dry rot and fall apart sitting there. So the best thing to do, if you have access to a press and or a machine shop for a little bit of money, again, nobody cares about bushings because nobody's going to see them and nobody cares because it's not part of the big 3, right? Paint, body stance, wheels, whatever. This is what we always focus on, and then going faster, which is nothing wrong with that. But at this day and age, with how old these Foxbodies are, you got to pay attention to this stuff, or your Foxbody, like my white one, is going to get you hurt. My white car almost got me hurt a couple of times. I was so used to that car doing what it wanted to do for so long that it never really dawned on me that, you know, you need to stop, Dan, or you're going to get hurt. You're going to what is the issue? And I chased the issue. I threw parts at it thinking, oh, well, that's the problem. Well, we changed the rag joint. It wasn't the problem. Okay, well, we changed we got the alignment. That wasn't the problem. Changed the bump steer. Looks like things are starting to get better. We even went to the rear axle and readjusted the rear axle and the anti-roll bar to make sure it wasn't that steering the end of the wall. So, you know, whether it's 200 horsepower or 2,000, these are some things that we always overlook. So bushings, again, what other bushings are we looking at? Neo, what is your recommendation for using for a stock distributor on a modded engine? I would always use a stock distributor. Guys, Ford products, I get the fact that you want to put like the best and the best and the best, the Excels and the MSDs and the Hollies and all that stuff. If your factory shit works, leave it alone. When it comes to ignition, like eventually that PIP and that TFI are going to go bad. You just got to know the symptoms of it. But I've had really, really good luck with factory parts for years. Fuel pressure regulators, even the ones that, obviously they don't have you can't tell how much pressure is in them, but they do well, up to like 500 horsepower. And then you want to start, modding your fuel pump and wiring it and making it better. Then you want to start thinking about getting anyways, I'm going down a rabbit hole just talking about it. So, my car has a loud noise from the passenger seat every time my wife, here we go. So my car has a loud noise coming from the passenger seat every time my wife rides in the car. Is it like you're talking like it's like the maybe, listen, what I've seen in the seats, and I'm hoping that you're not trying to be funny there, but anyways, even if you are, look at your floor pans. We often overlook looking at our floor pans. I'm going to be honest with you guys. If you've had that, these cars have seen a lot of road miles, the seats will crack underneath. Your floor pan is so thin, it's ridiculous. But your rails, your seat rails in the back crack and break where they come down into the like carpet. See what I mean? Where it's bolted into the carpet with the 15 millimeter M10s. They can also crack around there's a seat mount underneath that's spot welded to the bottom of the floor pan. And that can pull apart just like the torque boxes. So like it's easily overlooked. And if you have seat noise, like slow saying here, then it's very possible that your floor pan's cracking. So it's making like you walk through an old house, like a wood cracking. You know what I mean? Just like something's like wrong there, physically wrong with the rail of the floor pan. It's the best way to look at it. Do you boy favorites, Matt? I appreciate that. Handling Motorsports. Broken seat stud mount. Thank you, Pete. That's what I was trying to say. Look for your floor pan to be cracked or your broken seat rail mount. Subframe connectors with seat brace. That's correct. So moving on. E-brake cables. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm going to be straight honest with you guys. I do not have e-brake on any of my cars. How lazy and dumb is that? I overlook e-brake, and I need to take the time to take the 4 sets of brand new e-cables I'm staring at and get them in my car. It's just, I'm just lazy. Overlooked all the time. E-brakes, e-brake cables, e-brake cable adjustments. My e-brake is putting it in gear and turning the wheels. Because if you have a spool and you turn the wheels, your car ain't gonna move. Yeah. That's race car shit doing street car stuff. E-brake cables. Now, being real with y'all, e-brake cables is often overlooked, and it people rip up on the e-brake and it doesn't even work. And you can do yourself a favor though. You can pull that drum off if your factory brakes and get some WD-40 moving on some of the moving parts, because there's a ton of tension, there's a ton of springs, and there's spacers, and there's clips, and there's whatever adjustments that can be done there to make that e-brake a little bit better. But that's often overlooked as well. So I'm so lazy with it. I know. Me too. My black car, listen, my black car is weeping from the pro valve, right? My black car is weeping from the pro valve, and it needs a brake upgrade. I can't stop the damn thing, but I continue to race it and not care. Like, no, and my bump steer is completely. Wait till you see how bad my bump steer is on a black car. But here's the thing. In my defense, the thing sure does look good. Damn, the wheels in the stand sure do look good. Shit. Wayne, is there a heat sink you need? Okay. Brakes lay down. All right. So moving on. E-brake cables. What we got here? What else we got? We got about an hour and 5 minutes in. Okay. So we had talked about headlights as being part of the body or whatever, but there's something past headlights that I wanted to talk about, and it's an adjustment. I don't know if you guys know or not, but the buckets that are on that back side of your headlights, those often e-brake is yeah, I get it, Mark, but bro, I'm not even going to lie to you. I don't have e-brake in any of them. They know that none of them work. It's terrible. It's absolutely hearsay. It's terrible. But anyways, we were talking about there's buckets on the back side of your headlight. What a lot of you guys might not know, there's adjustments. You can actually adjust the way your bucket sits in beams, the high beams and the low beams. And over the years and time, header panels, okay, that's the piece that's riveted into your actual physical plastic bumper cover, they start to crack or break. And the same thing happens to these buckets. They're actually kind of fragile. And they crack right at the adjustment screws. And the adjustment screws are like, if you ever took a headlight apart, like there's these little clips you pop out, there's 3 of them, and your bucket comes off. The bucket's what I'm talking about. You can actually physically adjust the clips or the stud that goes into the actual headlight for the way your high beams and your low beams fit. You ever have a Foxbody that looked like this, that looked like it had a lazy eye, or, you know, stared off into the left or something like that? It's because your bucket's probably broken and or cracked. So that's often overlooked and underappreciated, and people don't understand. They buy new headlights and they think none of these buckets come with these new headlights. You got to buy new ones for the most part. But heater core we talked about. Strange on the front, drum on the back. Stops. Yeah, I still run drums in the back. My headlight, of course it is. It's got to compensate for no weight car. So give me some more. We're at 15. I mean, I said I was going to do 10. Shit, we'll do more. Let's keep right on rolling. So 16 is headlight buckets. And this is, you know, a lot of this stuff that we're talking about too is for, you know, if you just got a Foxbody or you're into, you know, just you're starting a project, whatever, this is some good stuff for you to, you know, go back through and look. You know, I'm not just making this live stream to talk shit. I'm trying to help you out. Definitely trying to help anybody who's trying to get into the Foxbody game and understand it more. You know what I mean? I bet most Foxbodies in this chat has cracked floor pan. Right. It's overlooked. I bet you Slow Fox, I bet you if he goes out there and looks at his floor pan, it's either cracked or the rail's broken and cracked. Or it's possibly could be the front stud. You know how the stud, like the driver's side stud always pulls. It's always the left stud in the front. I've sold a half dozen or more, a dozen of those little sheet metal pieces that people can cut out and weld into that section. Yes, Stephen King. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Seatbelts. Seatbelts. The reason why I'm saying seatbelts, especially you 87 to 89 guys, there's a little button that doesn't like the work of, obviously must have had an expiration date on it. You ever notice that your seatbelts don't retract? You know what I mean? You try to get them to retract. I got that problem in Dad's car right now. Somebody told me that you can actually, if you pulled the belt all the way out and you put a bobby pin or a couple pins or whatever, like clothespins at the bend so it doesn't retract back. If you washed it and let it sit out in the sun and dry, it actually helps the seatbelt retract. It's not the button, it's the seatbelt. So I'm going to share that with you guys, but I don't know if that's true or not. But we often overlook the seatbelts, and your seatbelt could still work and clip, but unless you jerk on it and it doesn't lock, then your seatbelt's probably trash, and you probably need to get a new one. Probably not a problem in the rear seatbelt. It's probably not a problem in the passenger seatbelt for the most part. I mean, because you ever see the seatbelt, you ever see the passenger seats I got probably 20 passenger seats that are damn near mint condition, titanium black and smoke, and all the driver's sides that came out of the same car are destroyed. So little do you know, you could just mate two of the same passenger seats in the same car. And I mean, who cares if you got to adjust it from the right side, right? Anyway, but putting 2 passenger seats in Foxbodies isn't uncommon. It's actually, you know, you got to do what you got to do. But seatbelts often overlooked. That's a good one. I need new seatbelt. I have a weird one. Water on passenger side windshield seal. You had that problem? I'll put seatbelts retract. I want to put retract. So usually it's the left-hand side, aka driver's side. Man, that list is big right there, bro. We got 17. Let's get 20. Let's get 20. We'll call it a night. Map light. Map light's always an issue, man. Yep, my floor pan is cracked on the rear seat. Fixing soon. So it was what it was, huh? That creaking comes from the metal. With the crack in the metal, it's actually kind of like, you know, rubbing like against each other or whatever. So the crack in the floor pan is making the noise, bro. U-joints. If we did U-joints, I'd have to add another one to that. Yeah, we're gonna do it. Okay, U-joints. This is what I'm gonna holler at you. U-joints, you cannot really see if a U-joint is bad unless you actually get the car off of its weight. You see what I mean? Because if you try to move, the best way to understand what I'm trying to say is to get you can physically move the drive shaft around. If U-joints go bad often. Like if you get crap ones and you don't have somebody who doesn't put them in right or whatever, the yoke gets worn out. We talked about that with the seal, but the U-joints for sure go bad. On top of the U-joints going bad is your drive shaft bolts come loose. They're a 12 millimeter 12 point. There's 4 of them. They attach to a flange. Listen, folks. Those things need to literally be torqued at least 50 plus, and you need to put red Loctite on them. Now you say to yourself, well, if you put red Loctite on drive shaft bolts, then I'm never going to get them out, Dan. Bullshit. I red Loctite all of my drive shaft bolts. So it's very, very, very important that you do that. At least blue Loctite them if you're not feeling confident. But U-joints will cause a clicking, will cause vibration in your car. Okay, overlooked. Everyone thinks, well, why's my car vibrating all over the place? Well, it's because your U-joint's about to fall out, bro. If that U-joint falls out in the front, that thing's like a catapult, by the way. And I'm preaching to the choir because I don't have a drive shaft loop on my white car, and I should. I got it sitting right over there. And my buddy Mike keeps telling me, bro, you need to put that on. You know, I don't want to see the white car flip. I mean, literally, it'll flip over. Like it counts as a catapult, like the drive shaft does. So clicking underneath of the car, especially when you go into gear, okay? Put it into gear. AOD guys have it easy. You know what I mean? You put it into gear, you hear a clink. That's a drive. That's a U-joint. And that's for any vehicle. That's front wheel drives. It's for that's your CV axle. So yeah, good. That's a good one, Tom. See you next Saturday, Dan. Next Sunday, Dan. Thanks. Hey, man, I appreciate you stopping in, Ford guy. I appreciate you donating $10 to the super chat to the channel. That's what it's all about, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Eric C. If you have a mess with a headlight switch, that was one of my last ones. I kid you not. GT switch. I'm not going to really add that to the list because that's kind of a hazard. That's in my hazard live stream, and everybody should know about it that's on my channel. Your GT and LX light switch will set your car on fire if you do not, if you have a bad one. The connections, I don't know, it just doesn't have enough amperage for that wire. And plus, it's 30 years old. Guys, everything, you got to overthink everything on a Foxbody. You know, it was good. It was good in 1990, but it ain't now. The GT headlight switch has seen so much. There's so much amperage going through, especially the GT one. The LX one does too. Excuse me. But the wires, the plug, the cannon plug on the back melts. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out my top 5 hazards, top 10 hazards. We went through that in a whole live stream about hazards. Man, I can go on and on and on about hazardous stuff that happened on Foxbodies. But the GT headlight switch will melt, and if you start getting positive connections together, then you're going to create spark and heat and melt and just catch things on fire. I've actually had a couple people chime in, probably about a dozen people chimed in on my channel on comments saying that I had no idea that my GT light switch was that bad. They pulled a little cannon plug out and it's all melted. So that should have definitely been a recall. But here's the thing about that, knowing Foxbody harnesses and the way they work, they would have had to have changed the whole dash harness. It's not a plug issue. It's not a cannon plug issue. It's a wiring issue. It's a pretty sure that the fuel pump the same way. You guys know the pump that how I keep telling everybody to rewire their pump to a 10 gauge. Like that's like a 16 gauge wire that's feeding that pump. There's no way you're going to put a 450 on there and it's going to pump at 450. There's just no amperage. It's not enough amperage there. Like that, and that's why they had booster pumps back in the day. Booster pump was the fix for shitty wiring. You don't need a booster pump if you got good wiring, right? T-Rex pump. Don't need no T-Rex pump no more if you got good wiring. Nobody thought of that back then. Well, I'm sure they did. It's just it wasn't really information that was put out there too much. So imagine the recall on a GT light switch. That would be a shit show. Like, well, then we have to redo the whole harness because it goes all the way up into the middle of the harness. At least the power part of it does. And I think it's like I want to say it's 14 gauge. So it's not exactly small, but 14 is not enough for the amperage that those headlights on high beam and the fog lights run at the same time can handle. Adventures Super Date, man, I appreciate the $10. Man, I do appreciate that for the channel. Sorry. I'm just on a soapbox right now. Question for anyone using comp cam. I don't think I've ever used the comp cam before. I've had them. Mine is a convertible. Is that a switch problem too? Yes, it doesn't matter. GT's had the worst problem. LX's not so much because there was no fog light involved. I think something had to do with the fog light and the car on high beams with the fog lights on. It's a lot of amperage it's pulling through for that little switch. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where it's all at. It wasn't the switch that actually was bad. It was the plug on the back and the wires that fed the power to it. You see what I mean? They should have been more like a 10 gauge. They should have been, like one of the wires that are up in the ignition. You see what I mean? But of course they weren't. And over time, too much amperage, too much resistance, causing issues. That's a big fire issue on Foxbodies. I had to run 10 gauge wires to my electric fans. Tired of the fan. Yeah, if you're wiring anything in your Foxbody, or if you're checking anything in your Foxbody and the wires are warm, it's probably a telltale sign that you probably need to figure out some way to fix that and such. So, all right, Broken Tools, good seeing you, man. Be sure to hit. I appreciate that. So the last one I'm going to talk about would be number 19, and I'll let you guys give me number 20. This should not surprise you. ECU caps. Probably like, hell you talking about? Well, we talked about this stuff on live stream. I talk about it in my channels. The factory computer, literally, probably 7 out of 10 of the computers that go bad are probably because the caps or the capacitors inside of them are melted. It's an easy fix. Especially if you know electronics. They're like, I think one of them 16 volt, 64 microfarad. I think the other one's 10 volt, 16 microfarad, whatever. One of them's a small. Anyways, the caps bleed, the caps fall off, they corrode, and it sends your engine in your computer into like a limp mode and crazy stupid mode. Limp mode is an actual mode in your computer that actually takes over all sensors. It basically shuts all the sensors off, and it runs like a speed density, sort of. Like it runs rich, it runs low timing, and you see what I'm saying? Limp mode is not the mode that you want. You want to be in closed loop, which is where computers should run, even tuned. But, you know, with Holly and stuff, with the invention of Holly and Terminator X and all that stuff, speed density systems are, you know, that's different. But the point I'm trying to make is your ECU, there's been a lot of A9Ls and A9Ps that have literally been thrown in the trash because of a 2-cent or 25-cent capacitor. And I think ECU caps are often overlooked as being an issue with the engine. Like, oh, well, it doesn't run because it's got a bad fuel pump, or it doesn't run. And I want to piggyback. Somebody said it here in chat. I didn't forget you. Somebody said something in chat about the fuel pump relay underneath the seat. This kind of goes all in with the car running in the ECU. The fuel pump relay underneath the seat. I want to piggyback with that with the GT headlight switch. But the ECU caps, that's definitely a big one. They're easy to fix. I think Fox Resto, Matt down at Fox Resto, I think he repairs a lot of them. He's even got the machine. I think he's got the OG machine. And correct me if I'm wrong here, if he's watching or will watch the stream. But I think he's got the machine that actually, after he fixes the ECU, I think he can actually like test it and like on this old Ford machine or whatever. It's really cool. Anyways. I mean, that hydraulic switch on the top. You're talking about the one that goes forward and backwards? That one doesn't go bad. Your pumps would go bad before that happened. Pete, 4023, man, I appreciate the $10 super sticker. Appreciate you supporting the channel and the live stream tonight. So, guys, give me another one. I got number 20. Let's get number 20. And then we'll call it a night. That's a lot of shit. Well, we about an hour and 20 in. You know, I knew this when I started writing some stuff down. I knew the stream was going to be pretty far. You know, I have a good time just rambling about Fox bodies. I could talk about Fox bodies until the sun comes up. But window guide bushings could be something underneath bushings, that's for sure. The fuel relay kept tripping out on my brother's '89 Fox. It's probably the same scenario. Mega Squirt or Terminator X better for. I would just, if you could get somebody to tune, to be honest with you, if you can get somebody to tune, I would stay with your stock ECU. For Matt, I appreciate the $20 super chat sticker. I appreciate that a lot, my guy. I'll tell you what, Ford Matt probably has become one of the premier, he's just a super guy, man. When I say premier, like subscriber, man, I mean, he's such a, a humble dude. I met him at Ford Takeover. I had taken pictures for my, we have a pretty good join membership thing going on down there, the little join button. And I talk a lot in there. And I was taking pictures with some of my subscriber channel members at Ford Takeover, and I don't know where they're at on my phone. So, but nonetheless, Matt, we got to hang out with Matt quite a bit at Ford Takeover, and he's a straight up awesome guy, and just a great Foxbody fanatic, and he's probably one of the, if not the best, supporter of the channel, man. I can't thank him enough. Door pins. Thank you. Good one. How many of y'all got door pins? How many of y'all got sagging doors? I know somebody that does. Cousin Paul. Door pins. He is not in chat either. Door pins are a very good one. You know why? Because nobody gives a shit about them, because all they care about, not the same way. All we care about is paint and body, wheels and stands, the way it sounds, and how fast it goes. Makes sense, don't it? Got you all right here on this door pin. So if your door is actually, if you take your physical like driver's door, you can move it up and down, you got bad door pins. And you got bad bushings in the door pin. Somebody else said that. So what you're going to want to do is get a bushing door pin kit. I'm going to be honest with y'all. That's like $15. Does it suck to do? Sure. But, you know, my white car's door pins and my black car's door pins are still mint, thank God. I think they've been replaced at some point because I could literally push my door on my white car ever so slightly and it'll just go click. And that's the way they should be. Because if you don't fix your door pins, your striker's going to start to move. And then your mat pocket, if you got a 90 to 93, is going to start getting stuck underneath of your rocker. How many of y'all seen mat pockets sticking out of the car with the door closed? Man, same. Just joining, thinking about buying a Foxbody, but I found one that has a rusted out driver's shock tower. $3K all day, go get it. Rusted out shock tower can be fixed. It's easy. What's up, Jesse L? So I'm sorry for the guys that are just coming in to the chat or to the live stream. We're about to go ahead and head out. Now, guys, again, man, we always focus on these the big four. This will make a good video when I decide I'm going to do a video on it. But look at that. All this stuff, nobody cares about none of this stuff. Hell, I don't care about most of it myself. But if we don't pay attention to this, when we're working on it, like when I say it, like y'all see this right here, right? Y'all see the coupe. What do you think I'm doing right now on that coupe? I'm going through this list. Like minus the engine mounts and stuff, trying to figure out what I want to do with that car. I don't know what I want to do with that car yet. I got an idea what I want to do with that car, but I'm not sure that we're going to end up racing it or not. We'll figure it out. There's a lot of junk in the trunk, literally. So we're going to do a video. You guys want to see the stuff that we actually got in the trunk. I did go over it a little bit with the video, but I only picked that car up for like $1,500. And, you know, I'm going through seeing like this guy's got the south side. Like if I see south side control arms on a Foxbody that I pull in, which has been probably 10 sets of them, the first thing I look at is the torque boxes. Torque boxes are always ripped up with those. So many previous owners deferred maintenance because it doesn't make it go fast. That's exactly what I'm saying, Petey. So exactly what I'm saying. Paint and body, wheels and stance, the way it sounds and how fast it goes. It's all we really focused on. The big three-ish with the rabbit hole. The rabbit hole is what going faster is a big rabbit hole. This stuff is a rabbit hole in itself, but it has an ending. Like you have a sound, wheels, eventually you're happy and satisfied. Fast, you're always chasing a number. You'll never get it. But like all this other stuff pertains to stock or modified. I mean, like I said, even myself, it's like, you know, I'm a dipshit because, I mean, I could have got hurt with my rag joint. I could have got hurt with my ball joint. I could have got hurt with my bump steer. I mean, I have a low 9-second stick car. This is very, very important. I mean, you guys are, I mean, Mark Turner here, he's here in the chat somewhere. He knows. You know, my buddies I race with, you know, the buddies I race with around here, you know, I just glad I figured it out. Chris, I appreciate the $20 super sticker, man, for donating to the channel, my guy. Thank you so much. Yeah, all you guys that have donated to the channel tonight, super appreciate it. I even got a new member today, top tier new member. So we're gonna go ahead. I got about 2 more minutes. We're gonna head out. So if anybody got any questions outside of this, owning a 30-year-old car is a rabbit hole in itself. That is 100% correct. So I want to make a big shout out to the people that donated to the channel today. We did get a new member. Welcome to the channel, Big Fox 302. I see you guys. Is that a Thunderbird? That's pretty cool, man. He donated, or he joined the channel at top tier 2, Unsung Hero. Big shout out to my guy Tom, War Admiral 363. His name right there is exactly what his Instagram is, and he has a very large following. If you want to look at a really, really nice coupe, meticulously done, go check out Tom's coupe on Instagram. Adventures in Super Dave gave me a $10 super sticker. Pete gave me a $10 super sticker. Ford Matt, thank you again so much. $20 super sticker. or excuse me, super chat. And then Chris gave me a $20 super sticker. So guys, I appreciate you guys, you know, donating to the channel. Anyways, I will stop at that point. What do we got coming up on the channel? Dude, I think this video is going to be fire tomorrow. You guys and my members already kind of know what's coming tomorrow. You guys have already seen the video. I've already got it uploaded. I had it uploaded a couple days ago. I was actually going to release it Saturday, but I decided to just save it to Monday. I got a video coming out Monday, and we're going to follow that up Tuesday with the piggyback of that video. So there's going to be an exciting Monday and Tuesday video, and then we're going to chill out, and then we're going to bring out a pretty good video on Thursday. I think we're going to go with that format this week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. Might do a little bit of a short video showing my buddy's 3,000 horsepower Maverick. Some of you got a sneak peek on that last week with the last video. So we're trying to ramp things back up. I got a lot of videos that need to come out before they expire. You know, if you shoot a video and then like it's irrelevant if it's like too long, like the Ford takeover video, I had to bring it out. You know, because there's already been a lot of information out about Ford takeover, but I wanted to bring out something a little bit different. I thought, you know, big shout out to cousin Paul, and Sandy for the footage from Ford takeover. They took over 1,700 photos, and I made a montage that took me literally 10 hours to edit. So if you guys get a chance to check that out, go check it out. Anyways, congratulations for beating that red Mustang. Me and Hanlon have been friends for many years. I actually do quite a bit of business with Hanlon Motorsports, so they're my sponsor, but they're also, you know, they're also a business partner, or I do business with them with transmission stuff. So yeah, he had that Coyote. He had that Coyote dialed in. He just was like getting faster and faster and faster. And I'm like, you know, he's like, I'm gonna come race you. I'm gonna come race you at Ford takeover. I had such a great time. Anyways, guys, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the stream. Again, big shout out to my sponsors, Anderson Ford Motorsports, Donnie B. We got some things coming with Anderson Ford Motorsports, and I think with Brutal. We won't talk about that right now. We'll talk about that on another day. Hanlon Motorsports, of course, my big sponsor. You know, obviously, you know, Trick Flow on the dealer, the Mosier dealer, you know, Summit. I appreciate, you know, all that stuff too. So Eric C, I appreciate the $3 super sticker, man. I do appreciate it. Anyways, I apologize if you're just now jumping in the stream. And if you watch it, I appreciate you going back and watching it. It had a lot of information in it. I will make some videos about this stuff here at a later date, but I don't want to make a video about this live stream tomorrow or this week, because we'll just go ahead and let the live stream do its job, and then maybe I'll bring this information back out. But anyways, big shout out to the guys who, you know, the guys on my channel members, the guys in green. You want to check out the join button below. That's cool. But outside of that, I will see you guys this week in videos. See you soon. Thanks for joining tonight. I had a good time.